Welcome back to the final section, or C block, for this week's Weed Talk News. I'm Elena Pinto. In November of 2021, a tragic death occurred at the Trulieve Grow facility out in Holyoke, Massachusetts. 27-year-old Lorna McMurray suffered cardiac arrest from an allergic asthmatic reaction to the dust generated in the poorly ventilated facility in its pre-roll room. Podcaster Mike Crawford broke the story in January of 2023, and 6 months later, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration issued 3 fines to Trulieve, totaling just over $35,000 for alleged violations that related to this wrongful death. Now, this week, the State Cannabis Control Commission issued a $350,000 fine for this preventable death. Trulieve has been cooperating in the investigation, even though they shut down their 3 dispensary operations in the state of Massachusetts at the end of 2023. With more cannabis news from the Bay State, here is PCM founder Jimmy Young.
I'm PCM founder Jimmy Young, and this is the Bay State Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Holy lobster, there's a lot going on in the state of Massachusetts. We've already told you about the fine for Trulieve, $350,000 for unsafe working conditions and allergic screening of its employees. Plus, Andrew Berenger explained that the state has issued a waiver for the legal transport of flower to Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. Well, now we've got a story that involves a former city official from the town of Grafton who is the subject of a federal investigation for fraud. 49-year-old Bruce Spinney III, formerly the chair of the Grafton Select Board, was arrested by the FBI on fraud charges, allegedly bilking millions of dollars from unsuspecting investors. Now, after Spinney left the Grafton board, he started a company called Noble Manna that was supposed to be a licensed dispensary, but Spinney allegedly used that money to pay off creditors from another business he owed. And now congratulations go out to Jason Raposa of Goodfields Infused Beverages because he achieved a goal that was suggested to him by an oncologist friend. That cancer doctor asked him to create a more potent additive in a beverage form. Regulations for those types of products are supposed to be limited to 5 milligrams of THC, but after being frustrated by a typo in the regulations, Jason was able to actually produce a product with 5,000 milligrams of THC in it.
My friend who's an oncologist, she came to me very early on in the journey and basically said, we need products like yours in the market. We just wish they had just more potency because, again, we're talking about cancer patients, and cancer patients, depending on what you're doing, there's a good chance that you're going to need lots of cannabis. And so, fortunately, we are able to bring out these products now through innovations and technology that we've been able to develop over the years. Whereas when we first started, the limitation of 5 milligrams is a little bit, it's pretty hard to for a lot of consumers, not everybody, but a lot of consumers are over 5 milligrams at this point, to companies like ours to innovate, to kind of like push the limits on some of the stuff to make sure that we're getting what people want out there in a safe environment.
And finally, a happy birthday to Jeff Semilian of Low Key Dispensaries in Boston, who hosted a private birthday party for a few of his closest friends at the Mix outside on their patio, complete with music, drinks, a dab bar, and live music with Dorchester's own Latrell James.
Pipe down, baby. Pipe down, baby. All right, look, look, just look. Dirty clothes on the floor for the weed.
That's the Bay State Report for this week. I'm Jimmy Young for Weed Talk News.
One of the many fathers who report for Weed Talk News every week is Brandon Jones from Missouri. And every week, Brandon provides his unique style and passion for the vibrant cannabis market in the Show Me state. This week is no different for Brandon Jones. So here he is and his Missouri report.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with Beat Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. And yes, this week we're talking about taxes again, but this time it's in another positive light. If you've seen the numbers that are coming out from Missouri, they are crazy. Over $2.5 billion is what's projected. Over $370 million are going to be taken in taxes for the state just of Missouri in the first 2 years of us being recreationally legal here. They're saying that the first enough this year for the projection is enough to cover the Missouri health and public safety departments themselves completely funded just from cannabis tax dollars. And yes, Kansas, pay attention. Maybe you could help getting some roads fixed or taking care of other municipalities that you could take, and you could help your people in your state get access to medicine. I had to spend my Father's Day in Kansas, but luckily we can have THCA. So I wasn't without any medicine at all, but you have to be careful and know what products you're taking, because I am obviously not crossing any state lines with any products I am not allowed. But, you know, we got to be supporting our chiefs, having barbecues, hanging with family, and be able to find some way to partake medicine. So Kansas, please wake up. Let's go. Come on. But it is hotter than stuff here, already over 90 degrees, and people are outside finding places to consume. We are trying to get more places inside that we can consume our cannabis near, not have to worry with this 100-degree weather. But there are getting ready to have lounges and consumption places open here in Kansas City and Missouri soon. So everybody you have a wonderful Father's Day. Hope you got to spend time with your families. And again, I'm Brandon Jones with Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Stay medicated and educated. Have a great week.
On the international scene, voters in the European country of Slovenia have approved both an adult use program and a medicinal program in that country, with voter turnout of 41%, or over 700,000 voters. Slovenian voters approved both ballot questions decriminalizing and legalizing the use, growth, and distribution of cannabis in that country. Now, Europe has over 20 countries who have approved some kind of medicinal reform, like Germany, Luxembourg, and Malta. Those are the only countries who have legalized adult use and sale of the plant. But no matter what happens in the future of reform, the first G7 country to legalize cannabis is Canada. One of the most popular shows in cannabis is Thomas Howard's Cannabis Legalization News with his sidekick advocate, Miggy 420 from Washington State.
Welcome to the Father's Day show on Cannabis Legalization News. My name is Tom. You can find me here and on CannabisIndustryWire.com. We have a big Father's Day show. It wasn't the largest week of news, but there was news that came in. Our lead story, a congressional committee is stripping marijuana banking protections from key spending bills. So let's bring on our co-host.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, Miggy. How's it going, man?
I'm there, but I'm not. Happy Father's Day to everybody who showed up.
Happy Father's Day to everybody who showed up. And hopefully you're having a great one and enjoying whatever dads like to do on their Father's Day. I busted my ass in the yard yesterday.
We got a congressional committee strips marijuana banking protections from key spending bill. Ooh, that was nice.
Now, this is the GOP-controlled House Committee bill stripping marijuana banking protections from a large-scale spending bill, and introduced and approved by a subcommittee to include language that prevents federal regulators from penalizing financial institutions for simply working with state legal cannabis businesses. And that was removed. So I guess they don't like you.
Well, this is
to bank compliantly.
Safe Banking Act, right? In a nutshell.
They try. And so that's the thing. You got to get crafty. And then we have another story about some other crafty legislators coming about hemp later on in the program. Mm-hmm. But yeah. And so if this thing isn't going to pass, they try to slip it into other things to see if they can get it passed that way. And what did it meet with? It met with a no from conservative politicians. So, you know, it's one of those where, and it's like infighting in their own program, because this is Representative Dave Joyce, Republican out of Ohio, lead sponsor of the standalone bipartisan marijuana banking legislation.
So this is another reason why a show is so important, why rescheduling is important, right? Because we won't need safe banking if rescheduling happens. Correct? Because this will allow for a pathway.
No, yes, no. And so, like, you have to understand, and this is the video that I just did. Unfortunately, it was like a little too political for people, so it got a lot of thumbs down, and like a lot of people just didn't watch the whole thing because they're like, "Oh, I'm not voting for Biden." I'm like,
yeah.
It's not about that. It's about the administration can change this process, and many of the conservatives tend to hate weed. Vis-a-vis this, I mean, like, it's an Ohio Republican that's pretty much centrist saying 40 states have legalized this. We should allow them to have banking. Steny Hoyer, who's been in Congress for longer than I've probably been alive. And so he's a Democrat out of Maryland, and he strongly supports the provision and believes this is the way to get it passed. You know, and they need to get it out on the vote on the floor, but then will it go to the Senate? Because you can't get a bill out of the Senate unless somebody has 60 votes.
Yeah. Well, this again, if you're watching us, you're trying to figure out how to legalize weed, right? You're trying to figure out how we can get to we are trying to get to a regulatory path for this plant. And that's how it becomes descheduled, right? Eventually, I asked ChatGPT the other day, I was like, what is a regulatory system? Because sometimes we like, oh, tax is bad and all the other bullshit, but like, welcome to being a grown-up. You know, it's like, there's a lot of things that we got to do and don't do to survive and all that stuff. But a regulatory system is a framework established by a government or authority to create, enforce, and oversee rules and regulations that govern specific activities or sectors. So this is going to be the cannabis is medicine. Yes, we can all agree. But we need that path to get to that point, you know, because this is more than we have. And if they care about the plant and they care about legalization, stop bitching about what we're not getting and just take what we can so we can keep moving forward.
And finally, this week, some good news from the state of New York. The Office of Cannabis Management now has an interim leader. Governor Kathy Hochul has appointed Felicia Reed as the acting director of the OCM. She is a career bureaucrat in state government where she worked for the past 6 years in the Office of Children and Family Services. The biggest announcement from New York relates to the growing of cannabis at home for New York residents. Well, now you can grow up to 12 plants at home and have 5 pounds of cannabis on your property. The governor also stated that these rules do not include renters and other tenants in properties not owned by the grower. So rather than lawsuits and padlocks, some good news about reform coming from the Empire State of New York. We love to see it. That's this week's Weed Talk News. I'm Elena Pinto, and remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly, and we will see you next time.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
What if we're right? What if all of a sudden they discovered that there is medical use for marijuana and that it is good for you and it's better than alcohol and it's better than opioids and it helps your health? What if we're right? What if they find that out?
Specific cannabinoids have medical value. These are facts.
I'm here today in hopes to assist in removing the demonized stigma of cannabis and the perception that cannabis is just about getting high. The true base of this plant has to be known.
I don't think anybody should ever go to jail for cannabis. Get some medicine, and everybody should have access to it.
This is something which, at the very, very least, is the key to alleviating suffering and extending life for millions of human beings. Right? For returning some kind of balance to our society, and quite possibly of restoring our planet's natural balance as well.